Blog Talk Radio.
Hey guys, it's Matt here. Ooh, we're doing night 5. Night 5? Right?
Sure.
Well, Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, The Village, and Signs. Yeah, we're on number 5. 5, ooh, of our 12 Nights of Shyamalan. Cue sound effects we do not have, that I should probably put on the soundboard next time. Ooh.
Are we still going for spooky, really, Matt? Because I feel like we fell off the spooky within, the first movie.
It'll come back with The Happening. Are you telling me, wait, so Village wasn't spooky?
Well, it sort of was for a little bit.
Yeah. By the way, if any of you don't know, this is your first podcast listening to us. First of all, hey, wow. I don't know how you've stumbled upon this, but happy that you're here. So I'm Matt Marrero. I'm also here along with
Tristan Walter.
Yes, you're so happy and excited. I thought you liked this movie.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say that now.
No. Here's the problem, right? Before we get to the problems with the movie, not the problems with you, because you're fine. Before we get to some of that stuff, the thing with this movie, by the way, Lady in the Water, is it's dated in the ways that you don't want it to be dated in, but it's not like the movie was made at a time where we should super duper excuse it for being this dated. Oh, God, I forgot what movie it was because I actually haven't seen it. I don't think it was Breakfast Club. Might have been Breakfast at Tiffany's with Mickey Rooney essentially doing Asian face and speaking with, it was Mickey Rooney, white man, putting on prosthetics to look Asian and had big buck teeth and said, Hey, what are you doing here? And that was in the 80s. I know why. That's a super why thing to ask, right? But at least we could say that was 30 years ago. Wow, we've changed. Things really were fucked, but they've changed. But this movie, while I'm happy they casted Asian actors and actresses and other ethnicities as well, at the same time, some of the stereotypes were like, dude, this is only 12 years ago. That's not so long ago that we should be like, well, excuse me, things have changed. Like, what the fuck? Granted, believe me, I'm happy that they had an Asian girl cast in the role. Nowadays, they'd probably cast Scarlett Johansson. Oh, fucking sick burn. But anyway, I'm sorry. I actually have mixed feelings with the Ghost in the Shell stuff. We'll probably talk about that if we ever actually get to watch the anime for the podcast and actually do a podcast on the live action movie, whenever that may happen. But anyway, when it comes to this film, with the way they represented not just the Asian actresses, but more importantly, in a way, the fact that it comes off as this ancient, mystical Chinese secret, like it was passed down from the grand elders. And it just feels strange because while Shyamalan is a minority himself, you can still have situations like this with other minorities, though. It would be silly to say that I haven't seen other minorities look at me as me being Cuban and Puerto Rican, so as a Hispanic. I can't say that other minorities haven't looked at me and gone, oh, you're Hispanic, so you must love your pork, right? And your rice and beans. And this is from other minorities. So it's not like we're going to sit here and be like, oh, but Shyamalan, he's a minority, so he can't do any wrong when it comes to other minorities, you know?
Right.
He can. And I think that he did. And it's frustrating because when we put that stuff aside, this was such a good concept, and it could have done really well. But you were telling me something. You were saying at first I felt like, well, I also agree with you on this, definitely, the first part. It felt like nothing was going on for a while in the movie, which is also a big criticism when you're watching a movie.
I mean, it wasn't
shit needs
necessarily, it wasn't necessarily for me nothing was happening. But it was just, for me, I get, secondhand embarrassment really easily. And everything that was going on with him not immediately, bringing her, the lady in the water, finding out who she was and bringing her down to a police station and being like, look, I need a missing persons report. it just felt like it was going to culminate into him getting so much shit for it, and I was getting really worried when shit was finally going to hit the fan.
So normally I feel secondhand embarrassment, but only during the scenes. I don't have precognizant secondhand embarrassment. But
yeah.
because that's what. Funny enough, you were the one with visions. You were sitting there. It's like, Tristan, are you okay? Embarrassment. Something bad's gonna happen. Kawaii desu, no.
Oh
and
my
so
God.
I.
Well, this man is going to jail.
Well, because it comes off very anime-esque, like, Nesan, what is she doing in here? No, you misunderstand. Like, I thought that was going to happen. And
right.
then we're, like, because here's the thing, right? When it comes to suspension, and we're going to get to the other racial stuff way, way later, because we don't need to right now, like, go in depth. There's other stuff that both is good and is bad with the movie. We don't need to open up and keep that going for God knows how long. We'll get to it later. But here's the thing, right? I can understand suspension of disbelief, right? I'm totally okay with going, oh, yeah, she exists. I think it's kind of silly to try to act like, oh, no, she doesn't exist because people would have known. Like, it's a bit different than, what happened with The Village, with that twist where it's like, really? Nobody, really? It's a bit different. But to say that now that people see her in the room with him or know that she's in that room, she is only in his shirt. He didn't even go out to try to buy something to put on her. And she's essentially walking around not even half, 75% naked. Because the shirt, in my opinion, doesn't count. It covers, but it's still like, if it's removed.
A towel, she was in a towel half the time too, but like, a shirt and a towel, for fuck's sake.
And interestingly enough,
pants. My kingdom for a decent pair of pants.
My God. Do you think she might have said that? Just in a different language? Anyway. So here's the thing too, right? Here's the thing too. She, in a weird way, because I think some people might say that she was sexualized throughout the movie. In a way, I think she wasn't. Like, she was nude, but I don't think it was, like, I don't consider nudity to immediately equal sexual or sexuality. Because it's just a naked body. So I feel like even though she was naked for most of the time, in a way it felt artsy and not trying to be used to tantalize us, which I think is good. Which I think
half
was
the time she was in the shower, just in the water, because she's a water person too.
But more importantly, we don't see anything. Like, even looking at her, even looking at her back, it's just shown through to the other character, Shyamalan's character's sister, who's talking to her. So interestingly enough, like, even though she's nude throughout most of the film, or semi-nude or mostly nude, I personally don't feel like she was sexualized. Like, I feel like. I mean, someone could argue maybe she was infantilized a bit, and that's not a good thing to do either. But at the same time, she's not playing a woman; she's playing a some ancient character that looks like a woman. But she's not meant to be like a normal everyday woman who's being turned into a child. Every other female character in the movie felt. I don't think they felt like they were, I don't know how to say this, like, not real. I guess, again, issues with the Asian teenager with her accent, but accent aside, she seemed super real, like, as a character, like, oh, hey, I'm at a club, but don't tell my mom, she thinks I'm at, like, a dance rehearsal thing, like I'm a dance class. That was hilarious, because that seemed so real. I was like, wow, like, that's the most real thing about you.
Right.
Compared to everything else that is being shoehorned into this movie about you. But so when it came to the lady in the water, like her, her people and her name, being Story, by the way, cool. Anyway, so her name, well, not her name, her character, I have no problem with her existing because, again, it's a movie. That's what you kind of have to fucking do, Like, well, it's a problem that she exists. Well, then I guess we don't have a movie then, Johnny.
Right.
But. I don't know, maybe you disagree because I know you and I both agree on the idea that, the issue with ancient Chinese secret, that whole bullshit, it's legit bullshit. So we can, but if we have to try to piece it to the side, just cut it up, slide it to the side for a bit, how do you feel about the idea, not that she exists, because duh, but that everyone seemingly to me, minus like maybe two interactions, seems like everyone's just fine with it. Am I wrong?
Right.
Did I miss something?
No, yeah, it's the first time anyone else in the apartment complex comes into contact with her or seeing her or meeting her, it face value. And
Yeah.
I wonder if it was something about her, like something magical, like powers-wise about her, because, I mean, the tenant, the repair guy that looks after her, like, his whole, I mean, that's another problem, too, his whole stutter disappears while he's in her presence as well.
Right.
So maybe there's some kind of property about her that, like, yes, it's an incredulous story, but, like, you believe her because somehow you know it's true.
So thank you for that, because that actually explains the entire movie for me, really.
That's the only thing I could think of, you know?
No, but it's not even like that much of a fan canon thing, because it does seem like she has magical properties to her, not just, oh, I can swim in the ocean and shit. Like,
right.
she does have magical properties.
She also seems to be able to see into the future and stuff like that, what she was talking to, Shyamalan's character.
Yeah.
And other people, too, trying to bring out, I don't know, the best in them, seeing the best in them.
I don't know why I paused. I just thought of just her being like, you wrote something. I have written things before. About, 8 years ago? It was really good. Oh, it was. Since then, though, what? Nothing. You said you see the future, not the past. Yeah, by the way, his inclusion, that's kind of what also, it's one of those things where it's like, look, either make parts of it racist or have you become the main character-ish. You can't do both for me, man. You can't fuck up in You can't fuck up in two different avenues. You can fuck up in one, and I'm like, oh, it's really hard, but I can try. But you hit me from two different ends. One from, it's ancient mystical arts. Mystical this and that. And then he's the writer. It's like, oh my.
Who's supposed to write a very influential book for someone else. Granted, it was for someone else to read in the future and become this inspired world leader, but yeah.
It felt like it's one of those things where, and by the way, I want to say this, right? I don't hate this guy. I don't know this guy. I've never read an interview about he said something really offensive or terrible. I don't know him personally. I'm sure if I had a beer with him, he'd be a cool guy. But it just feels as if the way when you insert yourself into a movie like that, in that way, when you've already done it in the past, and again, I want to, full disclosure, I'm talking, the guy that has 3 YouTube channels, and I do most of the stuff on the channels in terms of editing, voiceover work, and I star in many of the videos, and then when I have other hosts on, like you, and I love having you on, and a bunch of other people as well, it's not just you, it's me. So I fully acknowledge that. I'm not in any way saying that that's an issue when you don't have the budget. That's the thing. When you have the budget, why would I be in everything if I can pay a bunch of other people to read the things that I have written? Why does it get to the point when it's just like, I'm actually not just in the story, but I'm a writer who will one day change the world? It just gets to the point when it's just like, it's too much. Think the old...
It almost feels like he's stroking his own ego in a way. I don't think that's
God.
where he was coming from,
God.
but it does come off that way.
Because I wanted to say, and it's somewhat similar, I believe the phrase is, and I'm talking about literal, the phrase is, take your dick off the keyboard. I think that's the phrase. And when you say stroking your own ego, I'm like similar connotations.
Oh, okay. Granted, I mean, his character is still apparently going to die. It's like, if you write this, you will be killed. And he's like,
that's fair.
Well, still going to do it because it still needs to happen. Because change needs to happen.
No, and it's beautiful. No, here's the thing, right? I'm not saying that he's a shit writer for putting himself in, because that's a weird thing to
Right.
say. Like, you're a shit writer because you put yourself in. It's like, no. And I'm not saying he's a shit writer in general anyway, but I can't say, like, oh, he's a shit writer for putting himself in there, because it's just, that's not the issue. I think the issue is that just him putting himself in and then giving himself that little side plot of being like, you know you will die if you write this. Well, I must.
Yeah.
Because if I don't, then change will not be enacted, and I must do it. It's like, oh, are we ever going to, like, we're never going to see that. All of his movies end before we go into, you know, future flashbacks. Granted, I haven't seen some of his newer work. Maybe it changes here and there. But his movies have ended usually when something, frankly, I want to say, this movie has one of the best endings of all of his movies that I've seen thus far with you, because something happened.
Right.
Like, she was let go. Now, granted, you could say, well, does she actually ever get back? Maybe she'll die. Like, yeah, it's try to say that. But, like, it's a bit different than, like, The Village, where it's just like, will he recover? Who the fuck knows? Right. Or Signs, where it's like, there's still an invasion.
Right.
Or even Unbreakable with, there's text on the screen.
Yeah.
Granted, a big reveal, but still, there's just different. Oh, you were going to say something about Unbreakable, right? I know you wanted to mention.
No.
Oh.
No, I mean, I was
just
going
the
to
ending.
say, like, it felt like she actually got home, like, is prophesized. Like, if she meets the person that she's supposed to meet and, you know, helps them along to do what they need to do, then she gets to go home. So
yes.
It felt like with the eagle flying out over into the ocean, it felt like she got to go home.
And that's beautiful. So to be fair, I think the fact that there was a goddamn ending, I was like, oh, thank you. Thank you.
Right.
I even care that you flash your own name. Also, by the way, it's just like, don't even flash if I did what he did and put myself in the movie, I don't think he went far enough in putting his own name at the end. He should have fucking put a screenshot, I would have done it, of myself in the movie next to my name. You fucking put yourself in the movie. You can't divorce yourself with the end title card being directed and written.
Right.
No, you have to go all the way. I think that's the only thing I'll shame him for, not having himself in the movie. I mean, of course, the stuff with the Asian characters and some other characters, sure, I'll shame him for that. But I think I might shame him not harder, but at least as hard for going written and directed. When you're that much in the movie, no. You put your picture right next to it, smiling.
Okay.
Just a big-ass grin on your face from your character in the movie. But yeah, so her powers. I do think that you could say that she had some powers, and that kind of added to it. It was never really addressed directly, but it did show that she had powers in general. So, frankly, even though it can come off as fan canon, I think that makes me enjoy the movie. Oh, God, so many percentage points more. I don't want to say 100 because other stuff, but, like, really high up there. Because without that to me, because here's the thing with, like, comparing it to a movie like Labyrinth, where, question, have you seen Labyrinth?
I know of it, but I don't think I saw it.
All right, you have problems, man. No, I'm kidding. I do want to watch the movie with you because David Bowie is fucking fantastic.
Yeah, right.
That's
the one I was thinking, yes.
Yes, but with that movie, he brings her into his world. If it was just David Bowie in tight pants running around, someone should question, hey, sweetie, yeah, Dad, you're 12 years old still, right? Of course, why are you asking? Why is this clearly 40-year-old gentleman in your room in extremely tight pants? I don't know. Well, that's a problem.
Right.
You know, like, that's a huge-ass problem. More importantly, no, she's like, I think what's weirder is, why did Mommy bring her into your room? What? Immediately is like, well, I'm going to give you what for. All of a sudden, she's like, the mom's like, where's Daddy? The mom's like, where's Daddy? And she's like, well, he went to your room with the man that you took to your room. Oh, no. Yeah, they've been fighting for over an hour. Lots of weird noises. I don't know who's winning. Immediately, it's just like, well, that's what David Bowie does. He just comes into your house, and I'm going to stop right there. I want to continue it, but I don't know if I should. Should I stop the joke, Tristan? Is it good?
I think you should.
All right. He has sex with your parents. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is, how did you feel? You were telling me, we're going to move on immediately. You were telling me before we started the show, I think a day or so ago, you were saying that you really enjoyed the main character, Paul Giamatti's character, who I like Paul Giamatti as an actor. I'll talk about his stutter a little bit later, but I love him as an actor overall. What he's done some really interesting things. He's been in, I think he was in the second Amazing Spider-Man movie. Not sure if you've seen that one, the one with Andrew Garfield.
Yeah. I've seen bits of it, yeah.
So the second one with Electro, did you see that one?
Yeah.
Or bits of it?
Yeah.
He was Rhino, Paul Giamatti.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so the opening scene.
I saw that character.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, the opening scene with him being in a mech Rhino suit, because I know it was in trailers, okay. I think. I thought it might have, or there was a teaser portion of it released online legally by Sony, I think. Yeah, he was Rhino. Anyway, so his character.
Why do I feel like that could be incorporated in here and be use the Guardian's secret power, the Rhino mech suit?
My God. Yo, if he got in a Rhino mech suit, this movie would have been my favorite Shyamalan movie ever.
Would have immediately shot up on the ball.
I would have sat there and I would have been like, look, Bruce Willis is great or anything, but did he get in a fucking mech suit?
Right. Oh, my God.
Did Haley Joel Osment get in a mech suit? No, he didn't. Did Mel Gibson get into a mech suit? No, he didn't. None of them did. Joaquin Phoenix, of course they wouldn't have gotten a mech suit in The Village. So fuck that. This would have been the best movie. But anyway, so you enjoyed him going around the complex and talking to the tenants because you came from a video game-esque perspective, which you would think I would. But of course, we both play games, so you got it before I did. You were saying how you enjoyed that because it kind of felt like he was going around. And not only was he picking up quests from different people, but he was going off solving different objectives.
Yeah, it was especially. Oh yeah, it especially really hit me that way when she started referring to people when he got the full story from the mother.
Right.
Of the Asian college student, when he finally got the full story, the bedtime story, referring to different characters as these ordinary people are these actual people that are supposed to help, the healer or the guardian or the seer and the guild. And I'm like, so we're looking at it felt like a fantasy, an old time fantasy video game, but brought into a real life apartment complex.
Yeah,
and it felt like it finally just broke the barrier of being so absurd that I'm like, you know what? I'm now enjoying this.
Yeah, I think if it was a video game, I think I would enjoy it more. And some of you might be laughing, but I think just him going around, either walking around and you're viewing it third person or in some kind of visual novel. I think it would be more enjoyable that way. But because we're having to watch a movie and we're kind of, I'm personally kind of sitting back okay, so what's going down? Also another thing, too.
Because he even... Yeah. He even asks, there's a film critic that he brings up to a room at the very beginning, and you meet some of these, wacky people that live in this complex.
Which was funny.
Yeah. It felt so very weird at the very beginning because there were all these wacky people in this building. I'm like, is this supposed to be a real, you could pick any apartment complex in Philadelphia and be like, yeah, that's that place. But he even asked, the film critic, so if you were to find, these people, the Guardian and the Healer and yada, 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 who do you think in this building would fit those? And the critic, looks at him and, this is what you interrupted my nap for? but then goes ahead and tells him anyway. It felt so much like an NPC conversation, just a non-playable character, just talking to them because I need to talk to this person. You talk to them, they're like, you bothered me for this? Well, you're already here and you already woke me up, so I guess I'll tell you what you need to know, and then I'm going to go back to sleep.
And to me, that kind of seems like the problem with this movie, because in a video game, look, I'm not trying to sit here and say that video games are supposed to have bad plots, because I'm not saying that at all, or bad situations like that. But what I'm getting at more so is you kind of have to keep the game going. Like, you can't just have everyone not talk to you. But
right.
in this case, because it's a movie based on what you would think is a real life situation, minus the whole sea creature thing going on there, and other surface dwellers that are boars that want to attack. Other than that shit, it's based on, they're supposed to be real people. Caricatures, racial ones aside, just other caricatures like the dude who just like, so I want to do some crazy experiments, so I'm just working out one side of my body. And I was like, honestly, this dude is really funny to me. Like, that was just kind of funny, because it's funny. In a way, I was okay with the wackiness, but the thing is, just people, like, not only agreeing, but in that case, like, answering him that way and not telling him to politely fuck off is kind of just like, it was just strange, because when you, like, the fairy tale aspect of bringing that into the real world, again, modern day, beautiful concept. I love it. Why not, right? It happened with... happened with Bowie in a way, even though, they immediately brought her into the fantasy world. But still, it happened with Labyrinth. It happened with this movie. It's happened with other movies as well. Why not? But the second that you're supposed to actually sit there and go, so I wonder how these people will react to this, when you know how people would react to something like this in the real world, and they just don't, every step of the way, not just in believing her, but also in believing him, I guess.
Right.
It just felt odd. Sorry.
Yeah, that's what it feels like to me. Like, it feels like it's, like, obviously, yes, it is absurd in thinking that, everyday people would actually go along with this. But it feels like, in a way, you're bringing, instead of going into the fantasy world, you're bringing the fantasy into the real world. And kind of showing how absurd that would be in our real world. But, and just the idea of people actually going along with it. Like, it almost, like, towards the very end of the movie, it almost felt like it just went into parody almost for me. Especially, like, he has that dramatic scene when the dog is walking up to him. And he grabs the pool net and turns around and realizes it's not moving, and he looks behind him, and the dude who's only working out half of his body, he's like, oh my God, he's the Guardian. And he's like, just look at it, stay right there, just stare at the dog thing, please. Yeah,
that's the thing. When the idea of it being a self, yes, I know. The idea of it being a parody at the end.
I never really thought of a Shyamalan twist being like, seeing it as like a joke, because all of the twists have kind of tried to be somewhat either thriller or, I don't know, a little more serious. Like, this one felt like it was purposefully supposed to be a joke, and it really got me, and I just laughed.
I didn't even take it as a twist. I just took it as process of elimination. Because who else would have been the Guardian? Do you know what I mean? No, but you're right.
I don't know.
It's technically a twist.
I took that as the twist.
No, you're right. I thought it was finally a movie without a twist, or at least in the way that he's done them throughout all these different movies. I thought it was a movie without a twist. Thank you for telling me that, though, because I would have sounded like a bigger dumbass, more than I do now, if I truly just said that out loud before you said.
They made that whole joke about when he was talking to the critic later on after he, the repairman, tried to stop the dog. It's like, oh, am I the Guardian? It's like, no, you are not the Guardian. You're almost eaten alive.
That's funny.
But he talks to the guy. It's like, why? Like, oh, how was your movie? As I'm being chased by this dog. He's like, it sucked. It's like, why do couples always, talk and rekindle their relationship when it's raining out? And he goes, oh, well, maybe it's supposed to symbolize purity and, like restarting again anew. He's like, no, that's stupid. But like they have that whole dramatic scene with him, you know, making the last stand and it's pouring out. And
also, here's something that I felt weird about. So, okay, here's the thing. The movie critic, just in general. Is it weird to you, it just hit me.
Yeah.
Is it weird to you that the guy whose movies after The Sixth Sense, and even I guess after Unbreakable, gets shit on by critics, writes in a character of a bad, mean movie critic who then gets eaten?
Who has no happiness in his soul left because he's like, there is no originality left in the world. It pains me to say, but it's true.
And then gets killed.
I figured you would. I figured you were going to say something about that, like off the bat, like as you were watching it. But
well,
I looked at that and I'm like, bit on the nose there, don't you think?
Well, because I didn't even think of it like that. Because I didn't think of it as.
At the same time, I felt like it was such a joke because it was so on the nose. Like he even says, as he's like, "There's a giant dog in the apartment complex." At first, I thought the twist was going to be like he was the evil one or the villain who was making things go wrong for them.
Even though he was a movie critic, which I've already said it's bad that all this stuff happened to him. I kind of would have preferred for him to be the bad guy because he always had this smarmy look about him.
Yeah.
In some ways, like at first it was like, oh, he's us. He's just generally annoyed. Because, not like you and I, just the general you, who's generally annoyed because he's like, look, I just want to get some sleep. I have work to do. I was flown in here, and I was brought here because apparently I'm so amazing, but I have to stay here. And there's a lot of character. A lot of stuff is going on here.
Yeah.
And he's just kind of like, I want some sleep every once in a while. So I think he's supposed to be like the general. In a weird way, he was kind of an audience insert, I thought, at first. And then when stuff happens to him and then he starts being kind of a dick, I'm like, I wonder.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it wasn't the case at all.
He even had that moment where, saying, oh, but this will be the part in the movie where, I get so tantalizingly close to being eaten by this dog, but I will turn and run and make it to the door just in time, and you'll smash into the door. And it almost feels like he's breaking the fourth wall because he's kind of almost looking directly at the camera as he says it.
That's
and
why
he turns
to
run, and then he gets eaten.
Like the only person that should have broken the fourth wall throughout this entire movie is M. Night Shyamalan. He should have been talking to a character, maybe his sister, maybe Paul Giamatti's character, from a side view, right? So we're seeing half of his face. And he should have turned immediately, looked at the camera, and went, that's a real lady in the water. That's the only time that he should have broken the fourth wall, and then he should have turned right back and continued the conversation as if nothing had ever happened. That, and maybe, I don't think the show was out yet, but maybe after doing that, you would have heard, yeah! But, and he would have taken out sunglasses. But I don't think the show is out yet, and that meme
They have the band. Right, they have the band just start playing, who are you?
My God. But no, so my problem is when it comes to that character, the movie critic. Look, I think, or at least, I'm sorry, not even the movie critic, just that joke. It was so over the top that it wasn't funny. It seemed too much, because to me, okay, I feel like with humor, it has to be either based, for me anyway, it has to be based in realism or over the top in a certain kind of way. But in the movie, the way the movie was doing its humor, it was doing very bland. Some cases it was kind of funny, a little chuckle-worthy, but most of the time it was just adequate, the humor. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it goes so over the top with him doing that shtick that he never spoke in that way before. And that's the thing. Like, he never spoke in that way before as a character. Like, if he came off as us, like just you and I as people, that's something we would say all the fucking time to each other.
Right.
Like, we actually do say stuff like that because we're dumb, I guess. Or maybe I'm speaking for myself. I'll speak for myself. I can be weird like that. I won't speak for you. But we'll talk about stuff in movie terms sometimes. But he didn't really do that, I think, throughout the movie, like in that way, over the top like that. And then also trying to call attention to the fact that, like, you know, in a movie like this that hasn't had any, you know, much violence, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, dude, you don't know how the movie's been cut. You're one random person. For all you know, everyone is bloodied and murdered outside. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he doesn't know how it's actually. So it was too much for me. That's the thing. It was too much. And then, of course, having him die the way he did. Could you imagine if we made a short or made, like, a movie or something, and our YouTube commenters, despite the fact that sometimes the negative comments are not even like, oh, your review sucks. It's just like they'll say things, and I'm just quoting. So, you know, sorry if people think I'm being too blunt here. They'll say, like, you're a cocksucker. And I'm just like, yeah, that's not actually a critique on how shit we are. That's just homophobia. Like, there's no, like, what do I do with that?
There's no substance to that comment whatsoever. Yeah.
Well, all right. I'll try to do that less while doing the podcast. Like, what do you do? So, when you get a comment like that, like, but even with a comment like that, if I created a short where there was a film critic character who wasn't played by me, because if it was played by Shyamalan, I think it's a bit different. There's different shades there, but not played by Shyamalan. Like, in the same movie that the film critic character dies a horrible death for being a snobby film critic, Shyamalan's character, gets to be the goddamn hero who writes something that will one day change the world despite the fact that it will kill him.
Right.
It's just too much. Also because the movie, again,
I get that.
Also because, again, the movie wasn't over the top with its comedy. Like, we create stuff that is so, at least trying to be over the top funny. I'm not saying we're funny. That's a little bit biased for me to say that. But we try to be. That if we created something like that, at least someone could be like, oh, well, you know, he's clearly trying to be douchey about it.
Right.
Like, it's me. With the way that I, you know, write stuff, it would be kind of like, oh, Matt wrote a thing where I'm just like, man. And then there's like another character who's like, Matt, I have come to tell you your future. What'll happen then? Oh, you're going to be fucking great. Amazing. Wonderful. And then, like, you're playing like the movie critic and you're like, oh no, a heart attack. If only I hadn't said that Matt's movie was terrible. I wish I could see him now and tell him that his movie was good. And then I go, don't worry, film critic. I'm here, not to save you, but to hear your final words on how amazing my movie is. And then in the distance, there's the, you know, from the future with the vision and just, you know, like looking in, like that character going, and as it was foretold, that shitty movie critic died. But it is okay, because his heart was filled with love for Matt's movie in the end, and his pants were filled with shit, because he shit on himself when he died. I think that's funny because that's to me so over the top. It's like, all right, that's fucking crazy. Versus this, where it tried to be grounded in reality, but I felt like it just wasn't. That's the thing. Most of the movie did not feel like it was trying to be grounded in the reality that it tried to lay down with its setting. Now, I want to say, though, you did make that point that I do want to defer to. It was a good point. Bringing the fantasy elements to the real world, not just her, but bringing all that fantasy in there, that the groundwork is literally just the fact that it's set there. Not that these characters should not be fantasy-type characters, which, fair. You know what I mean? Like them having, they also have fantastical elements. They're not just normal everyday people. Because clearly, another thing too I want to mention, I will admit this though, they're all so wacky, or at least not all of them to be fair, but many of them are wacky. Many of them are different, and, you know, and all, some of them eccentric and things like that, that I think some of them, not all of them, but some of them, seeing her the way she is, I feel like the stoners would at least just be like, all right, cool, man. You want to toke up or like what?
Right.
Lady in the water, more like man that's high in the sky. Am I right? Come on, man. You want something?
Right.
You good? No? You good? All right,
I mean,
more for me, man. Like
well,
that's
I
kind
thought it
of
was hilarious when he refers to them as the guild. It's like they're able to set up the party. It's like, huh. Even they,
Link,
like, it almost
you
felt
come
like
to town.
everyone was kind of mundane powers, but in the situation that they were needed for, it's like, no, this is actually exactly what we need. It's like, we need people who can set up a party. They have connections, they know people, they know how to draw a crowd.
Right.
Normally,
one
they
thing
just
I
irritate me because I'm trying to, because there's a no smoking rule in the building, but now here we are. It's like, I need
Another
these
thing
guys.
Another thing, too, they were smoking, and it looked like they were all smoking cigarettes, and I'm like, bullshit. That's a cover. The cigarette smoke is trying to cover up the pot. Like, they're doing one bad thing just to be like...
I feel like they couldn't show, like, actual, like, pot in the movie, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they wanted a certain rating, because, I'm going to check the rating, but I do not believe this was rated R.
No.
So
like,
I do wonder
if PG-13 at the most.
So I do wonder if maybe they were worried, like, oh no, if we put that in there, then
right, having an actual drug reference would be too much.
Yeah, even though we all knew it.
Oh yeah.
Like at any given point, one of those dudes was on heroin. Fuck weed. One of those dudes was definitely on heroin. And one of them was definitely on heroin, and then another one of them was like, dude, you really should stop the heroin. And they're like, really, Coke Ball Steve? Why do you think we call you that? And he's just like, I thought it was because of my magic 8-ball. No, Coke Ball Steve. Also, that's not a magic 8-ball. That's a coconut. No, it's not even a magic 8-ball, Steve. It's a coconut. And he's like, "Excuse me, I have to take this call." And he puts the coconut to his ear.
Okay.
But anyway, this movie, by the way, let me see how much what it was rated. If they have that written here, I don't believe they do. One thing I want to mention, though, it did not do well in the box office, although I just love how when movies don't do well in the box office, but they make more than so many other people will ever make in their lives. And they're not putting them down. They're not putting us down, if that's what happens to us at the end. But just the fact that the budget, right, was $70 million. It made $72.8 million in the box office.
Well, okay, the special effects probably, like making the dog and stuff like that was probably the big part, and the eagle.
They actually made some of the sets, so I believe they actually made. If I remember correctly, I'm going to read through this again as we're talking about this. I think they made some of the apartment complex, so I think that was a set.
Right. Oh, okay. Because I feel like you could actually make this movie on a pretty low budget.
You should. Let me see.
I guess
Shyamalan,
you have to know, if you knew the people at the apartment complex and shit like that. I feel like you could pull it off, or knew the building owner and stuff like that. But
here's the thing: Shyamalan established a production facility at the Jacobson Logistics warehouse site in nearby Levittown, Pennsylvania, where sets for the apartment complex and a half-city block of row houses were built.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
I think they built that entire place from the goddamn ground up, which kind of makes you go, oh, that's money.
Yes, it is, and also makes me think, why did you need to build that much?
I mean, to be fair, if they had a film for 6 months, that does mean that they are telling people in apartment buildings,
I guess
we're paying you for it, but we're paying you to not be in your houses for 6 months. And reshoots would be a nightmare. So there's a good chance, in a weird way, that building their own fucking apartments may have cost less than housing that many people.
Right.
For that long, because you can't just give them how much are you going to give them per person or per household to try to get them to leave? And then what if there's someone who's like, I don't want to leave? Then you just can't fit. And they're like, and I don't feel comfortable with you filming here. Then you're fucked.
Right.
I feel like it would be actually a lot more money, arguably, to try to get people to have to leave their houses and fend for themselves for 6 months. Well, yeah. With that many. To try to get them at least to feel comfortable doing it, because you have to give people a decent amount of money. Now, by the way, the music, one of the best parts of this movie. The music is
Yeah.
beautiful. Like, I love the music. I love the soundtrack. Also, really odd thing to say, but I love the poster for the movie. Have you seen the poster?
No, I haven't.
Oh, it's beautiful. Speaking of like a fantasy, setting and all that, I'm gonna send it to you right now as we're talking about it.
So
no,
definitely brings
it's so
home my
beautiful.
point.
Yeah, no, it's so beautiful. Where are you? I'm trying to find you to message you. I'm like, where is Tristan Walter? This is just a normal conversation. The fans are here. This is normal conversation.
Right.
So anyway, but when it comes to the, I'm trying to think of some more things. Oh, so Paul Giamatti's stutter. I again love him as an actor, but what the fuck, dude? What the fuck? Look, I don't have a stutter. I don't think. Maybe I do. I don't think I do. But I know people that do. Thank you. But I know people that like sometimes I mess up with some words, stuff like that, or like I'll switch some things around. I think if I'm really tired, I might get it. But when it comes to other people that I know, they have either a really big stutter, or I've even seen some comedians that stutter. And I'm not saying that everyone stutters the exact same way. What I am saying, however, is that his stutter, and I'm talking about when he's not with Story, right? He's not with Story when it's just him talking to other people. His stutter, it starts in the beginning, and then the rest of the sentence is relatively unchanged. And it's like, look, if you have a stutter and you're listening to our video and you're watching our podcast, you want to comment below and say, hey, no, that's actually how mine is. Don't think that stutters have to happen throughout the entire sentence. Okay, right? That's fine. So I would like to apologize if that is someone's experience. Many people out there with stutters, so that's fine if that's their experience. But I've seen the stutters, and I'm just coming from my own personal experiences. From the stutters that I've seen, it's usually something that big in the beginning, and then usually like it can be okay throughout. But if you're talking for a long period of time, like he does.
Right.
Well, which sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. I think maybe they gave him more lines when she was around so that he would have less of a stutter. But usually, I don't know, usually his stuttering, to me anyway, it felt like it was just in the beginning, and then the rest of whatever he had to say, anything, was just good.
And that's not how it would work, in the real world. It would be throughout.
Not heavy. Doesn't have to be like super heavy. Like he can get a whole sentence out.
Right.
It's just when he's speaking, like if it would kind of be like if he was to talking about something. Sometimes the stutter would come out, even when he really doesn't want it to. Where him, it kind of sounded like he was like, okay, so I'm going to be prepped to mess this up in the beginning, and then I'm good.
Right.
But I have to say though, I kind of like him as a main character, as a leading man, sort of, because he kind of has this fun charm about him. Like in a way, you really don't see him as being someone who would be creepy with this girl.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. Like I loved how this did not seem like a love story.
No.
It didn't have to be.
No.
And that's fine.
And I'm glad it didn't go that way, because that would have made it really, really off-putting.
It's funny. Normally, I'd want to be like, Tristan, come on, dude, because usually I feel like you just have a problem with romance plots. But hear me out. I agree with Tristan wholeheartedly, because she came from like a foreign land. She seemed like she didn't know what was going on. It just would have seemed like he was preying on her. If he did literally anything with her, even if she was wanting it, it would still seem odd, because it seems like she's just sitting around like, so I'm not really used to your language, but what's going on down there? No, not really. Not that she can't have the sexuality. It was just, I don't know, it would seem odd in this setting.
Yeah. Well, because even when she, when he falls asleep on the couch and then he just wakes up and she's there, granted, I think she just curled up next to him to feel safe, because the dog is out there trying to attack her. But at the same time, he's like, oh my God. Like all I could think of in his head was like, if someone opens that door right now, I'm going to prison.
He looks like someone who has seen enough anime to also say kawaii desu no. Kawaii desu no.
And just being like, okay, look, you need to get up. Like, no. Like now. This is not okay. You need to get up like now.
I don't
he's
know.
like, I
That
don't even
totally
know
makes
how
it
old
better.
you are. And
Yeah.
then, like, yeah.
So apparently we should also mention something major about his character. He lost his wife and kids. I forgot
right.
to what? To an accident? Car accident?
I don't know if it was actually specified. I
thought
it was mentioned that they were killed, but I could be
Either
wrong.
way, it's terrible regardless.
Yeah.
So seeing, and it's interesting, because it's very interesting for a Shyamalan film to have, not to have that kind of drama, or that kind of loss and tragedy, because his films usually have that. It's interesting to have a character who didn't deal with it throughout the entire film. Like, it seems like we've actually met a character who's gone through the grieving process, which is new, I think. Because thinking of every film we've seen thus far, it seems as if with, maybe you could argue with Signs, they got through the grieving already, but there was still some issues there regardless. But here, I think, because we took away the kids too, which I'm not saying is the best option always, but I think in this case, taking away everyone other than just him, it kind of moved the plot along in a way. But at the same time, though, I do think maybe it would have worked better with one character, because I feel like it just felt odd that we didn't have one character that truly felt like us, because it felt like Paul Giamatti's character wasn't the us. Like, while I'm saying, like, when I say the us, I mean, like, would I want to help her out? Of course I would. But if she's telling me who she is, and that doesn't line up with the reality that I know, I'm going to be fucking skeptical.
Right.
Like if she told me I am a space alien, I have actually come from planet Neptune, and there are some really crazy aliens out there, and they're going to bring a 3-headed monster to the planet. I would look at her and I'd be like, you know what I would say to her?
I got Godzilla on speed dial. Hold on, fam.
What I would say to her is, you should meet a guy that I know. I think you'd really get along with him. His name is Cokeball Steve. He talks about the aliens too, usually after watching the midnight movie marathon.
Oh, God.
So that's
thing. Mean, man.
Yeah, well, you know what? Masuda, yeah, Masuda. Now it's going to be stuck in your head for a year.
No, I thought you were going to be like, well, you know what, Tristan? Cokeball Steve needs friends, too.
He really does. I mean, he thinks he has a lot, but most of them are not real. And that's kind of sad. But anyway, I'm just trying to say that, I feel like his character is not us. It's the us that we want to be in terms of helping her out, totally. So in that regard, yes, it's like a character insert, if you will, because of course we want to be like this guy in terms of helping her out and going around trying to help her. And I'm not saying I wouldn't do that to help someone, but at the same time, it's just one of those things where, again, I feel like there's a suspension of disbelief that I totally adhere to. I totally adhere to it. But sometimes it can be a bit much. And I think this movie was that tipping point of, like, dude, too much. Like, and that's kind of why. I kind of
felt.
What?
Yeah, I kind of felt for him, like, seeing, like, when she talks about, I need to meet somebody, that to help them realize something important that they need to do. I feel like he was just kind of like, look, I'm used to just living on my own. Nobody visits me. I just stay here. I write sometimes. I just kind of want you to go. It felt like if I can do this without a huge scene or hassle, like maybe I can just have you meet another person. They'll be like, let's take you down to the police station instead of like him having to do it himself, I guess. So he kind of plays along with it, like maybe somebody around the building will actually know who you are. Or maybe even thought like it was a prank at first, like just trying to humor her and not saying like, okay, who put you up to this, like right off the bat. Because he goes to a few people and he asks them, and by the time he finds, Shyamalan's character, and realizes that the title of the book that he's writing, he says, oh, you're actually currently writing something. I need to find out what. He realizes the title is the cookbook. Like, he even says to himself, he's like, oh, God, what am I doing? This is ridiculous.
Yeah. By the way, I love Shyamalan characters. I love his sister. I love her to death. No, she's just so funny. No, because she's just because like at that one point where she was like, oh, Mr. I forgot his, the character's name, Paul Giamatti's character. She's like, Mr. So and So just walked in with a drunk girl. She's completely, wasted, and she's only walking around in his shirt, nothing else. Do the player, and I was like, that's great, because that's kind of what you would expect if you're coming from the perspective of, yeah, no, he's not a creepy guy at all. We know him.
Right.
Then clearly it's like, yo, that dude's a player. So also some of the stuff that she said about her childhood and stuff like that, like, oh, my mom and we had a trusting relationship, but I never really wanted to rat out my friends because that would feel bad. So we had these little signs that we would do, and then get kind of having that as a way to relate to story, and then it works. I don't know. I think that there's something about her character that felt the most real, or at least fleshed out of everyone there.
Yeah.
Where everybody else just has to fulfill a small purpose when she's actually just being a real human being and also helping out.
Right.
Also, I don't know. I feel like some of the comedy stuff, talking about because this was apparently supposed to be, I'm sure you thought it was going to be more of a drama thriller because of what we've seen thus far from him. There were a lot more comedic elements. Do you think all of the comedy hit well? Because when it came to some of the moments, right, obviously we've talked about, the stuff with the critic, and we've talked about the stuff with the whole passing the phone around, which, even removing it being, having Asian characters or it doesn't matter what ethnicity the character is, do you think that you found that, at first it was kind of funny, but it got to the point where it's just like, hey, so I need to know what the word "the" is in Mandarin. Are you fucking serious? Yeah, can you put your mom on the phone?
Right.
I'm saying, it felt like every little thing needed to. But so anyway, just in general, do you think the comedy hit? Did you laugh when they wanted you to laugh most of the time? Because I feel like it was hit or miss for me. Sometimes I chuckled, but other times it was just like, ah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it felt like a traditional comedy and being yucks every. It felt like it had comedic elements, but I don't know if I'd necessarily. I guess it would fall under the category of a comedy, but it wouldn't strike me as a comedy right off the bat.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's listed as a comedy.
Right. Yeah, it's not what I would traditionally think as a comedy.
Yeah.
Which is funny. So it's almost like, is this a Shyamalan take on a comedy? Is that what I'm supposed to come away with?
If so, I don't know, man. I like his takes on thrillers and horror. Despite some of the stuff that we've said, I do enjoy them versus this. At least the comedy elements of this. Oh, by the way, we got Bryce Dallas Howard come back as Story. We should also mention that. So, she was in The Village. She was arguably the main character after Joaquin Phoenix's character got stabbed by Adrian Brody. His character. So after he got stabbed, she essentially took on the lead role, and she was blind.
Right.
Yeah, so she came back because Shyamalan, for some reason, I feel like he's with the whole idea, at least nowadays, of having Disney swoop in and be like, we're signing you on for X amount of films. Not just, you will never only appear in one. Usually, you will never only be signed on to do one Marvel movie. So it's kind of funny because it feels like Shyamalan's like, I'm signing you up for 2 movies. I don't know what the second one will be yet, but it's going to happen. Because he always brings someone back, and it's interesting to see them play 2 different roles. I think it's a great way to showcase the actors and how different they can be. I'll say that much.
Right.
Because having, Joaquin Phoenix's character, having him in Signs, you were like, you weren't really interested in the brother's character. You were like, I don't know. But then seeing him in The Village, you were like, yeah.
Yeah.
So having her character in The Village, I would say I might have liked her better in The Village than here. But really, it's just the role that was written for her. It's nothing against her, because what can you do when you can't speak?
She's just playing a character, Yeah.
Yeah.
The way the character was written. Right.
Yeah. What I will say though is I don't know if I consider her a damsel in distress necessarily, because again, she's not she's not actually a woman.
Yeah, well, because I mean, we don't really know because it's not really specified. Because she is another being, she's not human, so it's not specifically said really.
Yeah. Because my thing is, it's not like it's like Mario with like Peach, where it's like,
Right.
Peach can defend herself. I mean, if you play her in Smash, she'll kick your Bowser's ass. So like for me, it's like Peach can defend herself, but it's not like that necessarily, because this is a character who's truly in like a foreign land. Like
Right.
Peach is literally the princess of her own goddamn land.
Yeah.
She should know how the layout is. But when it comes to like if Princess Peach was in New York in a live action movie, then it would make sense that she'd be like, Mario, fuck is going on,
Right.
Mario? And Bob Hoskins is like, I don't fucking know. And then Captain Paisano was like, hey.
It was kind of an interesting situation because a lot of it felt like the legend of her people and how they're supposed to help out, a specific human, because that's how our societies used to interact, helping each other out, and because they did a whole blurb at the beginning of the movie. And like they're sent as kids to find this one person and interact with them to try and help them, to tell them what they're supposed to do in the future that will help, I guess, basically the world in the long run. So it felt like it was not something she wasn't, she's not a damsel in distress in the sense of because she had to rely on other people to accomplish her goal, and in the sense, like, even the repairman, he even says, he's like, no, you're incredibly brave for going through, like, trying to do this. Granted, I don't know if they really get much choice in the matter of doing it, but the fact that she was able to get up and try again after the first time, like, the dog attacked her, because that's really traumatic to begin with.
Yeah. I would say that this is kind of a bit more of a fish out of water kind of story. No, but it actually is, though.
Get out.
But it actually, all right, nice to see you.
Leave.
So I think it's time to tell you. I actually come from an ancient race of people that are a bit like hers, but they're trying to make your life worse. So from 1 to 10, how worse is your life since you met me, Tristan? Oh, good. All right, so I'm going to go back down to the sea.
Oh, God damn it, I just gave you what you wanted. Fuck. See, I'm not bad. I'm not good at these.
No, but as I'm doing that, you're like, this is even worse. And I'm like, even better. Like, overall, it's perfect. But I love that I have a clipboard.
I jump into the sea after you.
Not today, motherfucker. You're going to suffer with me. I just chase after
you like Godzilla.
You're going to suffer with me. It's a horror movie now reversed. I'm swimming in the deep sea, but you're just Godzilla-ing, just standing while fucking halfway deep in the sea.
It's just like really bad camera quality, like someone holding a camcorder on a beach. It's just me walking into the surf with the sun setting.
Jesus fuck.
You see the credits starting to roll, and I'm like, no.
By the way,
no, it's not over yet. I haven't kicked his ass yet.
Question. I have a question for you, because this is actually on topic. I'm a little confused about something, and I need your help.
Okay.
Why the fuck could the Beast, which looked beautiful, by the way. I know people are going to shit on the CGI, but I thought it looked great.
No, I thought he looked really cool, and I really like the concept of just looking like grass and everything, and that whole.
That seems like something out of a video game.
Yeah.
But my question is, though, Tristan, why could it not attack Cleveland's little hut or his little area that he resided in?
It seemingly broke through the glass window in the door of the apartment building and nearly got at them.
Yeah.
And then at the end where it's stuck behind the door and it breaks the door off the hinges kind of to get out to then attack them at the very end. Yeah, Matt, I really don't know why I couldn't break into his house. Can't tell you that.
Thank you.
Maybe his house was some kind of Maybe it was made of some kind of magic, ancient mystical magic material that kept the dogs out of the dwelling.
That's totally
there's
fine.
There's supposed to be certain rules. Like they mentioned in the legend, there are rules about when the dog can attack her, but they kind of break those rules at some points. And they even say in the legend, there's nothing to keep it in balance so that the dog just repeatedly attacks her. But yeah, I don't know.
That's the thing. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, Matt, come on, suspension. And I'm like, it would be like if, Death Note had its rules. And by the way, established rules, we're not talking about like, how the U.S. movie adapted it differently, because they still had their own set of rules for the movie. That's fine. But it would be like if it was like, I need to look at a character, and if I know the person's name, then I can write the name down. But it would be like, actually, Light, the Death Note has Google autocorrect. So even if you write something close to the name but not completely, you could still kill them. Well, thanks, Ryuk. Like, you've established rules. You can add on new rules, but that's not a fucking rule. That's just a way to fucking circumvent it. And heck, at least Ryuk explained it in my example. Imagine if he didn't explain it. It was just like, but I didn't even write the whole name. I kind of wrote it awkwardly, and also with really bad handwriting. Don't fucking worry about it. Whatever. I saw him. I fucking know. I killed him. Whatever. Fuck it.
Oh God, I really want to have. I don't know what. Like, not even a full film, but just short. Just like an OVA, like Ryuk's Bad Day Off, and it's just I don't even fucking know. Like, I just killed him because I felt like it. Fuck the Notebook. Oh.
My God. But seriously though, I just I don't understand why that happened. So like it's the little things. So sure, the big things like with the Asian characters and some other characters, sure, it's the big things like that. But then it's even the little things. That's why it's really hard for me to there's certain things that happen in this movie that I'm like, this could literally make you better than Signs and maybe even The Village.
Right.
And then there's so much else that I'm like, I'm sorry, dude. Like, because you were saying at one point, you were thinking like this could be as good as, if not better than, Unbreakable, which according to our list, granted we don't have to have the same list, but according to our list, that would mean that it's almost close enough to rival like The Sixth Sense.
Right. And I liked this movie for different reasons that I like those two. Like, it wouldn't beat out, say, like The Sixth Sense, because I liked the story and I liked it. It felt like a complete movie as well. Like, I liked the concept and it was a good movie. This one it might not be the best movie, but it kind of tickled me in a way that it made it funny for me and fun for me. So I'm like, okay.
So then would you argue that it's hard to even say that it's on the same list then? Not to be a dick about it, but what I mean is that, like, if we put it on the same list, then it's hard to say according to that criteria that it would be that high up. Do you know what I mean? Because like not my criteria, your criteria. Because your criteria is, this is this and this is this. Therefore, this makes this up here and here and here and here. It's odd to say, according to your criteria, that you would put it so high up that it's better than Signs and The Village. To be fair, though, there were a lot of issues with Signs. There were a lot of issues.
I mean,
to be fair.
kind of, like, for me, I enjoyed this one better than those two. Because this one, like, unlike The Village, where it had that supernatural element, but then kind of debunked all of that, that kind of lost it for me. This, when it established a fantasy element and then worked its way into it and then just went completely in the direction of, taking the fantasy full force.
So then do you think,
like, okay.
Did you think, because I thought this, did you think when you were watching the movie and it got to the point where it was like, come on, we're not doing anything here, she's dying, and then it was just like, no, but you're the healer, the butterfly, and it was like, but you brought the butterfly to me, and then there was this gasp, and I was like, they're about to say that he set up the whole thing. He was hallucinating the entire time.
Right,
like I
kind of wondered.
They had this kind of shift in the way everything was going that I was like, it kind of felt like he was about to be like, what do you mean? No, you're the, and then just flash into a bunch of situations where, he didn't realize he was setting things up.
Right. It almost felt like that to me too. Like he was seeing, like, because the guy the seer who looks in the crossword puzzles, it's like you're just seeing what you want to see. And I thought that maybe it might take a dark turn, and it's like you were so desperate to make her happy and to help her that you kind of constructed this whole thing because, you're still broken up about losing your family and stuff, and now you've lost her too. Like, you couldn't bear to lose somebody else. And that would have, oh God, that's really dark. I don't know if he would have made it that dark. That doesn't seem like Shyamalan's style.
I would have disliked it, but at the same time, I think it would have saved it. Yeah, in a way. It would have saved it based on the fact that, like, what. Also, another thing I want to mention.
Sad, though.
It would have been really fucked up. It would have been.
Yeah, a little.
Just a little bit. Coke ball, Steve. Anyway, yeah, when it comes to, because I'm trying to think of, another character that appeared from the Village. I think her name was Mary Beth Hurt, the actress. Mary Beth Hurt. Let's see here. Yeah, Mary Beth Hurt. She was Mrs. Bell, and I believe she was the one that became the healer. But the reason why I'm bringing her up is when she was in The Village, which is the last movie Shyamalan-wise that she was in, she played, let me see here, she played one of the, oh, come on, where are you? No, because I knew that she was in a Shyamalan film before this because I saw her name in The Village. It just doesn't list her here in The Village. That's odd because I know she was. Anyway, either way, yeah, moving back to what we were just talking about, though. Yeah, I liked, so talking about the movie, though, as it revved up, I did enjoy, the parts with the Beast and having that go around and, trying to stop it and everything like that. Again, like, once things started to really pick up, I was like, oh, this is good. I get it, right? It started to really get better for me. It's just so much other stuff bogged it down, I think, earlier on and just in general. So, and also having Shyamalan's character, again, like, he's just this big character. I know in some ways people are like, let it go, dude. But it's just because he's done such a good job in other movies of kind of blending in but still having a nice cameo that I didn't have a problem with it. Also, I don't know, I don't think it was CGI, but I'm pretty sure it was real, how the actor who played the character that, only worked out on one arm, I think he actually did that for the role. So I hope he got paid very well, because that seems very unhealthy.
Yeah. I really hope he didn't actually do that.
Because it didn't look like CGI.
It didn't, but I really hope it was just makeup or some shit.
Right.
I don't know.
Oh, something to make him look like he was...
Right, to make it look like and not actually have that be the case, because I feel like that can be incredibly detrimental.
I mean, it seems like it could be, yes. Something, a random aside, Jared Harris, or Jared Francis Harris, as he's also known as, so he played a character in the movie. I want to make sure I get the name right of the character, even though they barely ever said people's names. He was Goatee Smoker is his actual name. So he had like a red goatee and he was hanging out with all the other guys. Because I knew his face and I was like, where are you from? Not only was he in Mad Men, which I have not seen, to be fair, he's also in The Crown and Fringe, both also things that I have not seen. But he was in Sherlock Holmes, A Game of Shadows, which means that I believe he was Moriarty. Yes.
Oh, God.
He played, but no, that was the one with, remember, that was the one with Robert Downey Jr.
Downey Jr., right.
So I don't know if you saw that one, but I did.
I've seen parts of it, yeah.
Yeah, so he was Moriarty in that about 7 years ago now, dear God. Yeah, I don't think he's been in anything else. Oh, God, he was in Poltergeist, the newer one. I saw that in theaters. That's actually kind of funny. But I don't think he was in anything else that I can be like, Tristan. He was James Bond villain in Robot Chicken. Awesome. All right. Good stuff. man. But anyway, yeah. So I'm just because I'm noticing certain actors' names. I wonder Jared Harris will be another character. He will not be Goatee Smoker anymore. He will be someone else in The Happening.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we could get everybody back for Lady in the Water too. I mean, come on, we're getting the sequel to Unbreakable. Why not?
Lady in the Water 2. It'll be. She'll come back. She'll be in heels.
Oh no.
It'll be great.
God, you've already.
What have I done?
I don't know.
Huh. No, sorry, I'm just looking at different character names, and I'm like,
right.
That's interesting. Because her name is Young Soon Choi. This is the teenage character, not her mom, who's just listed as Mrs.
Right.
Choi.
Right.
No, because I'm wondering if I've seen her in anything else. Because I'm wondering, I'm like, were you familiar? I don't believe. Oh, she's been in a lot of comedy stuff. She was in Spider-Man 2 as Chinese daughter. Such amazing roles for Asian actors.
Yeah.
She was in Sex and the City as nurse. She was in Seinfeld as woman number 1. All right, then.
Oh, boy.
She was in Law & Order Criminal Intent as Anna Slaughter / Layla. If she was not the killer, I don't know what to say about that.
Okay.
She was in Kung Fu Granny as Winnie Lang. All right, then.
Boy.
Okay. What in the fuck? She was in Law & Order as Liu Kang. Okay. Sorry, it sounds like that's a weird mix because I could swear to God that name resembles a Street Fighter character. Not Street Fighter, sorry, Mortal Kombat.
Right. I feel like you're right, but I can't think of the character.
Anyway, back to the movie itself, though. I mentioned earlier about the amazing soundtrack. For some reason, though, I cannot find an actual list of like what this was like. It was a PG-13 or et cetera, et cetera. Here's something interesting that I found kind of funny. So apparently the film was supposed to be produced by Touchstone Pictures, which, if you noticed, they were producing the past 4 movies.
Right.
And by the way, Touchstone Pictures is owned by Walt Disney Studios. But here's something really interesting. So they weren't able to reach a deal because apparently Disney executive Nina Jacobson had spoken with Shyamalan about the film's storyline. The studio chairman, Dick Cook, did not understand it. Now, 2 things. 1, hilarious name.
Really
Sorry, Richie. Hilarious name. 2, it's funny that Cookbook is what Shyamalan was writing, but he could not impress Dick Cook. 3, you're right, Tristan.
God damn it.
No, but Tristan, you're right, though. Someone says to you, I cannot understand your movie. Yeah, it's a little hard to follow. Not from it's too simple in some ways, to be fair. So I'm not saying that, it's hard to follow, it's crazy hard to follow what's going on. Just the idea that,
I enjoy it and I get the story, but I can understand why somebody else looking at this being like, what the fuck?
Well, no.
I get it.
I get the story. When I say hard to follow, I mean that. Now, granted, I'm sure he didn't pitch him the entire script, but it is a hard thing to pitch someone like, there's Narfs, that's their names, and they're sea creatures, and they're coming in, and the main sea creature's name that we follow throughout the story, she's named Story, and you would think that someone would go, so are we going to meet her sea creature friends? No, we never see them. Okay, so we're not going to the magical land? No, never. Okay, well, that's good. Saves us on some budget. So what are we doing? We're building an apartment complex from the ground up. Okay. So, you sure we can't film in a forest, man? Shyamalan? Mr. Shyamalan, are you sure we can't film in a forest? No, we're going to build an apartment complex from the ground up. Alrighty then.
Right.
And what happens throughout the story? Well, there's a creepy beast that's trying to stalk her and kill her. So he will gain a kind of magical sword. No weapons whatsoever, no fighting. Okay, so the goal is survival. So it's a horror movie. No, family friendly, of all ages.
No, it's a comedy.
No, it's a comedy. At this point, how is this chairman not thinking it's going to turn into the fucking Three Stooges? Like, and again, I don't think the concept is bad. It's just like we're saying over and over, when trying to pitch it, it's kind of a hard thing to pitch. But then here's where the problem arises, in my opinion. Shyamalan was reportedly angry about the response, claiming that Disney no longer valued individualism. It's just one of those things where it's like, dude, now if you want to say that, we could maybe have a conversation with even with Star Wars, with the Marvel
nobody
movies.
Wants to take a risk anymore, right?
But the thing though, here's the thing though, right? It's not about nobody wants to take a risk anymore. It's that, in my opinion, at this point in his career, he didn't just make The Sixth Sense anymore.
Right.
He had gone through Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, Signs, and The Village.
Right.
If he had pitched this right after Sixth Sense, fucking Lady in the Water would have gotten a sequel.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. But, or at the very least, people would have been interested. Like, that's the thing. Like, he pitched this movie. Like, you can't pitch a movie like this after The Village. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, The Village, people really had issues. And it didn't do that well.
Yeah.
So people, because at least if there were a lot of fans going, I don't care if it didn't do well, I love it, at least you could be like, all right, is that an untapped market? Maybe there are a lot of people that are really just Shyamalan fans. But people were polarized. Like, that movie was polarizing, and it didn't do super well in the box office compared to some of its predecessors. 'Cause I think Signs, despite some of its flaws and people saying what they've said about it, I'm going to look at it right now, but I'm pretty sure Signs did very well when compared to The Village.
Right.
So, yeah, it's just different movies or different box office numbers where it's just kind of, I don't know, it's kind of not ha-ha funny, but just interesting to me that it's immediately just like they don't value individualism. It's like, again, obviously he didn't know it was coming one day, but I feel like now we can kind of have a conversation when it comes to Marvel movies where technically Disney is like, hey, we want this type of movie. It's like, well, if you want the movie just like this and you want it to hit all these beats and you want it to only be like this, then why are you hiring a director?
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Unless you get a director who's completely chill and gels exactly with what you're wanting to put out, why are you getting a director who might sit back and go, I kind of want to do something a little bit different? It's like, why are you getting revolutionary directors directors who can change things and not be in tune with your vision? If you have a vision for something and you want to create it just like this and have it be just like this, et cetera, et cetera. Like, as much as I have problems with The Last Jedi, at least Johnson was like, you know what, fuck it, let's go in a different direction than Episode 7. I'm not saying I preferred everything that he did differently. If you guys want to listen to our podcast on that, we did it for Star Wars Wednesday. We talked about 7 and 8, right? And Rogue One.
Talk about polarizing that.
Holy shit, yeah, right? I've heard no backlash. What are you referring to, Tristan? And we even talked about Han Solo, Solo, a Star Wars story. So we talked about all those, and so we don't talk about that now. But the idea is that, at least he went with something different versus here. I don't know. It's just kind of funny that at this point, granted, I don't know what else they were doing at the time. Maybe he actually has a point. But it's just interesting that a guy who did very well with The Sixth Sense, which you could argue, I guess, was different at the time, to be fair. And then with Signs, actually, to be fair with Signs, budget was $72 million, box office was $408.2 million. So, I mean, while there might have been some, budget on merchandise. Look, it's the new aliens. No. These new alien toys, you put them in water and they disintegrate. It's the reverse. Instead of them sucking up the water, they just disintegrate.
Oh, my God.
No, but seriously, though, in terms of advertising, you were right, yes. But when it came to The Village, Actually, interestingly enough, even The Village, $60 million in budget, but the box office was $256.7 million. So I wonder if it really was just the whole, the idea of just bad press and bad publicity. That they were like, I don't know, man.
Right.
So maybe that's just what it was. Because it is quite strange. No, I would say it's strange because I do feel like, you know, in terms of money, it seemed like they were making money.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, here's the interesting thing. The film, we're talking about The Village now, it grossed $114 million in the U.S., but then there was $142 million in international markets. And assuming the same is true back then that it is now, they don't make back that full amount.
Right.
So when it comes to $114 million, even though I'm sure you could say, well, there's some theaters here and theaters there, maybe they're taking little pieces of the pie here and there, you could still say that they made back a lot of that money. But overseas, no, there's a bunch of other people taking pieces of that pie. That's why it took so long for a Pacific Rim sequel to come out, because when it came to the first movie, it did better than its budget. But if I remember correctly, in terms of how much revenue it made, it was barely over, and most of it was from overseas.
Right.
And while they're trying to tap into the Chinese market, that still doesn't mean that, like, they're okay with tapping into it and then getting funded by Chinese investors and other companies that try to make these movies. But, like, I think Iron Man 3 actually got a few extra minutes of added onto the movie in China, where there was, like, a Chinese actor in the movie that we never got to see. It was something like that. So they'll cater to those markets, but at the same time, it doesn't mean that it's going to bring in so much money in revenue after the fact. So that might be the problem here. Or, again, just bad publicity, because The Village, there were a lot of people shitting on The Village at the time. So
right.
you have a big Disney executive like, so what's happening here in this story? And actually he's just like, none of you understand my artistic vision. And it's like, dude, they've sat with you for 4 movies. And they were arguably, increasingly, one was less good than the next, because I don't want to say something bad about Unbreakable. But
right.
arguably, you know, it hasn't been uphill from The Sixth Sense.
Right.
But either way, so as we're kind of wrapping some stuff up a little bit here and there, anything you want to say about the movie? Anything that stuck out to you, or?
Yeah, I mean,
as good or bad?
It did feel at one point. Well, there are 2 things. One quick thing that was, I thought, kind of really funny was, you know, the seer, the guy with the crossword puzzles, which was absurd enough to begin with, but then starts to think, I'm not seeing anything in the next puzzle. Like, are you sure this is my role? And then they find out it's his kid, and he's reading the cereal boxes. That, I died. And then when they come back later, he's like, no, I'm sorry, I read it wrong. It's like, because you're reading cereal boxes? No, because it was my first time. I'm like, oh God. No, you know what? You're right. Give the kid a break. It was his first reading.
Yeah, right? Is the problem that you're reading cereal boxes? Actually, no. Surprisingly enough, it's not. All right then, kid. Sure.
But yeah, the one thing that really did stick out to me was when it was around the moment when, you know, the main character realizes that he's the healer role, and I started to realize, like, they're switching roles, like, a lot, and different people fill different roles. It kind of made me think, like, it's not, like, each of the roles is not, like, a cookie-cutter kind of thing. It's, like, people change and events change where you can become different things. Like, you're not just one set thing for your whole life, and granted, this is a really quick change from different roles, but it felt like there was a bigger idea of you can be multiple things to multiple people and help them out in different ways. And it was kind of a touching message in a way. Like, as absurd as things were, it did feel kind of touching for me in a sense that he had this loss of his family, and he's terrified of being like, I can't be the healer role. I wasn't there to be able to save my family. You know, I can't go through the fact of me being in this kind of position and not being able to help her, like me being the reason she dies because I couldn't do it. But, you know, they all kind of push him to be like, no, you're the one that has to do this. You have to try.
That's
And
true.
I don't know. Yeah, it kind of had a, touching feeling to me. I don't know if anybody else got that or you got that, but I thought
No,
it was nice.
I didn't notice. I noticed it less like, oh, it's a touching feeling that everyone can play this part, and more so that it was lucky enough that all of you can play this part in general. Although to be fair, apparently, if each one of them, like of her people, of these Narfs, if each one of them, by the way, Narf, worst name ever, but Story, I thought Story was bad, but Narf just makes you think like Narf.
Okay.
But anyway, more importantly, the most important thing here, at least in this situation, for what we're discussing right now, is the fact that so I feel as if it's, technically you would think, oh, it's, lucky, quote unquote, enough that she can, that, they all are, like, have these roles that can help. But at the same time, I was trying to get at was that because there are so many more of her that could visit each and every person, you could argue that everyone can have these roles. So
Right.
anyone
And
can be the healer in another situation. So, like, if one of her fellow Narfs, came to Queens, you could argue that I could be the healer, or you could, because apparently this can't only be one single person. Because if so, then why would, like, in a way it makes it less important, one would think, but still at the same time it can't be one single person doing this, because then not only is that too much suspension of disbelief in my opinion, because it's like, man, are you lucky that you found all these people in your damn apartment complex. It's more so that,
right.
because she's looking for that one person, she then maybe brings it out in them, or just in general, like, again, that's what they used to do. People used to do this shit all the time.
Or bring out the idea that, like, having her talk to them and having them actually believe in themselves a little bit more, in the sense that everybody can be special in their own way. Like, you can bring something to the table, or, if you actually look past, instead of thinking yourself so mundane and realizing that, everybody does have their importance. You can do great things. It doesn't just have to be, Shyamalan's character with you writing, something influential to help somebody else later on. It's like, granted, that's a bigger scheme kind of thing, but everybody else has a way that they can help out, even if it does seem on a small scale. It's
exactly.
Still important.
And to be fair, if she didn't help him, because I guess he was having an existential crisis, I guess. To me, it didn't feel like
he was
really
having, like, writer's block and stuff.
Yeah. But I guess it was so bad that he won't write the book that'll change the world.
Yes.
Either way, I enjoyed The Beast. I think that's what matters. I enjoyed The Beast, and I enjoyed the other creatures.
Oh, the monkeys.
Yeah. In general, it was interesting. I think it was such an interesting concept. I think it's just one of those, it was introduced so late into the film, along with the hawk, that I'm just like, could we because having that be earlier, I know it might have seemed weird. Like,
yeah, well, if the eagle was kind of the end game, like, the eagle will take her home, so, we're only going to see the eagle once.
True.
But, like, the monkeys were supposed to kind of keep the dog in check, because there are specific rules about when it can attack and try to stop her from fulfilling her mission. But without these other beings keeping it in check, it was just kind of going at her whenever it, had the chance.
Yeah. Also, I don't know, it seems so strange that there's rules of engagement. Granted, I know in the animal kingdom there's a bunch of arbitrary shit that to us is arbitrary, but not to them. And again, reverse, I'm sure there's arbitrary shit that we do that to them would be, or at least, like, arbitrary. Like, why do you poop in that place? Why do you not poop outside like you should? Like, things like that. But it's just kind of funny. It's like, oh, yeah, no, you can totally fucking kill her. But there's certain ways you can do it, not in any way. So don't do it in that way.
Right.
It's just funny to me.
Well, it felt like it was kind of a loose way to say there's supposed to be a boundary between, like, I guess the forces of, like, law and chaos are supposed to be in balance with one another, but there's an upset. Yeah.
True. That's fair. That is fair. That is a good point. So, yeah, I mean, as we're wrapping this up officially, back to shortly back to that racism thing that I consider to be, at least, if not racism, at least problematic. If you want to say that, if you don't want me to, if people are like, not you personally, Tristan, I mean, like in general, people are like, whoa, man. Because the thing is, I'm not even accusing Shyamalan. Like, I'm not saying like, oh, Shyamalan's a racist. I'm just saying that some of the stuff that he put in here was problematic, not just now, but for the time too. I mean, even that one joke he made with his sister, as a character, but still, because again, he put his big name at the end. I wrote this, so it kind of does come onto you than it does in other cases where it's like, oh, how many people came onto this and yada yada. So, what am I getting at here? When that joke that he made with his sister, where it was just like, oh, what did she say? Oh, just about the, just ask, or like, what were you asking her about? Making a joke with him, and he was like, just about the deaf, dumb, and blind guy that's gonna marry you. And I'm just sitting there like, really? That just seems off to me. Like, I'm not saying you can't make, like there's different jokes that you and I can make to each other versus me writing it into a movie, especially one that he considers family friendly.
Yeah, I guess it was supposed to be just like a brother and sister kind of
messing
with each other, fighting with each other.
I know, it was just so, because you know what it is? There's nothing wrong with, like, because here's the thing, right? If it's like, haha, I want to make fun of you, it's okay. But, like, it came off as, like, because the thing is, when you say a joke like that, you're not making fun of her. You're making fun of the fact that, you wouldn't want to marry that guy, right?
Yeah.
Like, replace any other group with that big black guy. It'd be like, whoa, dude.
Right. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Think of any other group, and you're like, oh, God. It's just because the idea is supposed to not be like, oh, yeah, it's supposed to be you're going to marry a guy who's extremely inferior because he's deaf, dumb, and blind. Now, someone could be like, but Matt, is that someone you would marry? And no, because I don't marry men. But, Matt, not the point, God damn it. But the point, I got him, Tristan. No, but seriously, though, it was just an odd statement also because, again, like, most of the comedy, while some of it fell flat, still was trying to be, like, tongue-in-cheek, like, kind of, like, cutesy, I guess? Like, like with the phone stuff, where it was just like, or with Paul Giamatti's character with milk on his face, lying on the couch. Like, tell me a story. And it was just like, you idiot. That was kind of funny.
You have to seem innocent like a child. Really? Is that really the only way your mother will tell me this story so I can help save Story's life?
Yeah, I know.
I'm afraid so.
That was funny to me. At least him trying to do it. Because
even her mom was like looking at him like this is a joke, right? Like this has kind of gone far enough. Like you're creeping me out now. Can you stop?
Yeah, no, it was funny to me. But that's much different than him just being like, what's a really funny, because like, think about that. Shyamalan had to sit there and be like, what's a family-friendly joke that my kids will love, that I want my kids to really hear? I'm like, that's the joke. It's like, for me, I'm just like, ow. Now, granted, I don't know, it was just a weird one. Like, there's nothing wrong with ribbing. There's nothing wrong with ribbing siblings.
Because I feel like if, like, the sister character came back with something right at him, it might have been a little better.
I don't know. It's not even that. No, it's just the idea that, like, look, like I was ribbing with my cousins. It was really funny because, like, I was talking to them, right? And I made the mistake of saying that Fortnite is first person. So one of them said, actually, it's third person. It was the younger one. And I looked at him, and but he's old enough. He's 18 now. So, like, he's old enough that I can, like, make really stupid jokes. But, like, so he said to me, actually, Matt, it's technically in third person. But whatever. And I looked at him and I said, well, look, I understand where you're coming from, dude. Like, on one hand, it is in third person. But on the other hand, go fuck yourself. And he just lost it. He and my other cousin, because they were both there, and they both just died. That is, even though I curse, to me that's friendly ribbing. It wouldn't be like, it's like there's a difference between that and being like, well, on the one hand, there's that, but on the other hand, you should get cancer and die. It's like, dude. And then for me to write that and put it in the short, in the little short that I made with the seer who was just like, and then he got cancer and died. Like the one I referenced earlier. But at least in that, like, I don't know, it was just one of those things where, like, most of the humor in this was relatively light. So he hit her with something so hard that I was just like, it wasn't even her. It was just against people who are deaf, dumb, or blind. Like, why would you want to marry that dude, right?
Right.
Just like, Jesus H. Christ, man. Like, here's what's funny. You literally have a movie like The Village where he puts people who have disabilities in it. And I had my problems with the character of, was it Noah? It was Adrian Brody's character.
Yeah.
I had problems with Noah, but he treated Bryce Dallas Howard's character, her character, who was blind, very well, I thought.
Yeah.
And then in this movie, he comes out with a joke like that, and it's just like, you know, you can't, like, make a character who's strong and blind and be like, see, I'm good, I got it. See, I'm woke, I'm okay. It's like, you can't do that, dude.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't be, like, there was a woman that I knew once. Well, I knew through another person. And she was dating an African-American man, and she was white, and she thought she could just say the N-word. So she did. People looked at her like, no, you can't.
Right.
Like, just because you're dating. Yeah, exactly. Just because you're dating this dude doesn't mean you can just say the N-word, even though you're singing song lyrics. So it's not like she was saying it out of hate. But it's still like, dude, what the hell? She was like, it's okay, right. I'm dating so-and-so. You see what I'm saying? So granted, I'm not trying to compare what he said to the N-word because it's a little harsh, a little rough for me to try to say that's one-to-one. So I can't do that.
Right.
But it was just one of those things where that joke coupled with the Asian stuff, I was just like, you're really not batting well right now, dude. This movie is not batting well in many ways. And again, it's not like I can say, but the movie was so good on, like, other than that. That's the issue. So that's why I'm giving this movie, like, 2 Shyamalans. And that's our rating system, if anyone's tuning in for the first time. That's our rating system that we're doing for 12 Nights of Shyamalan. I forgot what I've given the other movies thus far because we're not we're releasing these day by day, or night by night, technically, but we have not, like, there's a gap in when we're actually recording them. So I don't remember the exact amount, but I know that this is the lowest Shyamalan film thus far, and I've heard from you that The Happening might make me change my stance a little bit.
It's been a while since I've seen it, but I do not remember it fondly.
I cannot fucking wait. All right, then. So anything you want to say? Anything at all? Oh, how many Shyamalans would you give this movie? Because I know it's like I said, it's hard to rate it because it's technically better than other movies. That's the thing for me. If the Asian stuff, and even though that was one-off joke, if that was removed, I'd be like, dude, this was like a 3.5-star Shyamalan. 3.5 Shyamalan movie.
Right.
But it's not for me. Now, I'm not trying to say, like, are you putting it aside? How dare you? No, I'm just being legit. Like, even with all that negative stuff there, you were able to thankfully enjoy it due to its, like, what the outline was, like what the concept. So, yeah. And again, I enjoy the concept too, but I don't feel like its execution was done well enough.
Right.
That's my issue. I love the concept. It's the execution that kind of makes me bring it down as well. So, right. I don't know. How many Shyamalans do you want to give this? Or is it hard for you to rate it?
I mean, I guess I'd give it 3 or 4.
All right, that's fair.
I still enjoyed it more than the last 2.
So 4, so how about this? 4 without the shit that we just mentioned in there. Like the Asian stuff. A 4 without it. But having to include it because that's the movie, it bumps it down.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's fair. And that's fair. For me, it was more like, I think, 1.5. Not that I'm sitting here like, see, I'm better than you. Like, no, I'm just being serious. Like, for me, it's a 1.5, and that's okay. So that's kind of, because I would have given it like a 3.5. I don't know about 4. Right. I really don't. But I would have given it a lot higher if it didn't have some of that bullshit in there that I feel like, because thing, too, I would like to mention, if, I'm not saying him being in the movie or not. I'm trying to say if that would be a problem or not. But if it was his family and he was going, no, my family, we had stories like that. So if it was him with his Indian family and heritage, that's different. Where like it's different for me being like, oh, I'm writing a story and it's going to be my Cuban ancestors and my Puerto Rican ancestors telling me some very interesting stories. A lot different than me being like, yeah, I'm just going to get some Asian characters and they're going to have an Asian story for all of us, and
Right.
it's going to relate to modern day. And it's going to be, because if some of you guys don't know, that's a common trope. Maybe some of you haven't seen that many movies that have this, but that's such a huge common trope that usually when Tristan and I see it in anime, at least, it's a bit different. In some cases, it's a bit problematic, but in other cases, it's a lot different than seeing a movie in the U.S., regardless of who's making it, unless it's about their own culture. Like if this was an actual biopic about, Chinese culture or Asian culture, and it was created by people who are Asian or specifically in this case Chinese, then I think that's different. That's okay, right? But it's just a bit odd that, it's a made-up story, but it's like, who has to tell it? The mystical Asian. Like, it's a huge trope at this point that I believe was even worn out by '06.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. Like, I'm pretty sure, like you said, even in '06, or thinking about yourself, if you were, in '06 looking at this, you wouldn't be like, oh, it's normal. What's weird about that? So that's our ratings, and our ratings totally fucking matter. I hope Shyamalan doesn't kill us in his next movie, because I really liked Unbreakable. I don't want to die in Mr. Glass. That would be terrible.
What's the next one?
What? That we're doing,
the
or
next
that's
movie.
coming out?
Yeah,
Mr.
that we're
Glass.
doing.
Oh, The Happening.
No, that we're doing. I got some bad news for you, Matt. I think we are going to die in this next movie.
Oh, that sucks. Oh, well. We'll see what happens. All right, guys, so take care. Love you all. Please remember to like and subscribe if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, Those Guys on the Radio. If you're not, I believe you can still follow us through Blog Talk Radio. By the way, Blog Talk Radio is blogtalkradio.com/Those Guys on the Radio. You can follow us there as well. And you can also find our podcast by searching up Those Guys on iTunes. So you can find us on iTunes, Blog Talk Radio, and Those Guys on the Radio, which we also have Keikaku Corner there as well, which is a weekly, we don't do them weekly as much, although sometimes we do. Usually, now that it's as we're recording this, it's near 4th of July, we are actually just posting some of our older archived shows that aren't actually on Those Guys on the Radio. You can find those on Blog Talk Radio and our iTunes, but you can also find them in video format on our YouTube channel as well. Also, we have a gaming YouTube channel where we talk about a bunch of different games. Sometimes we play them, sometimes we showcase them, sometimes we showcase different consoles from around the world. We have tutorial videos as well. Sometimes it's just me playing, sometimes I bring on hosts. And right now we're in our Halloween in July event, so we're actually playing a lot of spoopy, scary games because it's Halloween in July, and that's the best time of the year, Tristan. It's the most wonderful time of the year. And you can find a bunch of fun stuff that we do. Search up Those Guys Play, and you'll find all of our cool stuff there. And also TG Productions, which is also going through our Halloween and July stuff. We have Anime SMR. We have Anime Classics. We have a bunch of different shows on there like Toku Trivia. We have Top 5. And when it comes to Anime SMR, because we're getting all scary, we're doing a bunch of different funny JoJo dubs and things like that. And I might be wondering, Matt, what is Anime SMR? It's an ASMR parody, but doing famous anime clips. It's a thing. 5 out of 5 people who watch it, because there's only 5 that watch it, say that it's great. But anyway, but seriously, you guys can check that out over at our TG Productions YouTube channel as well. And if you want to follow, you can subscribe to all 3 of our channels, but if you're not on YouTube all the time, maybe you're like, hey, I want to find it through your social media accounts because it might be on those more. Well, you can go to our Facebook, which is facebook.com/Those Guys on the Radio. Our Twitter, you can tweet us at Those Guys Radio, or you can check out our main website, which is tgproductions.net. tgproductions.net. Also, you can do as well, you can get some of our cool kick-ass merchandise, t-shirts, and some other cool stuff by going to our main website, tgproductions.net/merchandise, or over to our eBay, ebay.com/USR/Those Guys Radio, where at ebay.com/USR/Those Guys Radio, I will not only be selling our t-shirts there, but also some personal items from my collection, video games, pro wrestling stuff, movies, things like that. So really cool, fun stuff there. And also, I want to say that we have Patreon as well, patreon.com/TG TG Productions. And on our Patreon, depending on what tier you give to, you can get us to do some really cool stuff, either specific reviews that you want us to do, specific news stories for Keikaku Corner that you want us to do, when we do them every 2 weeks, or, if we're not doing one, but you guys are really pushing for a certain news article or news story, I'll just get Tristan. I'll be like, dude, rev up the mic, rev up the camera, let's do this. And so there's a bunch of different... But yeah, also speaking of podcasts, not just podcasts, but speaking of Let's Plays and other gaming content, you can get me to do, or other people on the channel to do different reviews or Let's Plays or things like that. You can do a different combination of hosts. So if you've seen how those guys play episodes and you're like, I want to see these two hosts, not just Matt, because Matt's great, but I want to see, Anthony, Toto, and Tristan Walter. Hello, Tristan. I want to see the two of you. Do a Let's Play of some kind or something. Then again, depending on what tier you give to, you can totally get that. We can totally give you guys a shout-out. We can totally have you guys, we can promote either your product or your channel or something like that. Or again, just a general shout-out in some of our videos throughout the month, or specific videos if you want them only for one specific series. Anyway, so, love you all. Thank you all so much for listening in. We're done for the night. And, I guess I would say that you should say goodnight, Tristan, or whatever you want to. You're writing your own story. Ha, such funny. God, it's hilarious. Tristan?
So I've got this camera revved up, and it's really getting hot. Like, what do I do with it? Should I throw it at you?
I don't know.
See, that was a joke.
Fuck it. Just throw it. I don't know. Just throw it at me. I don't know.
Okay.
Cool. No.